There will be one high-level design round. Always try and solve medium-based questions, or do not just look at the compensation aspect. If my manager feels that I am greedy.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Learning Bridge. I hope you guys are doing good and staying safe. So in today's podcast, we are going to discuss about the interview preparation for Amazon SDE2 role. And the guest we have today, he is also working as a SDE2 at Amazon. So he will be sharing his experience and we will try to ask some important questions like the general interview process for SDE2 role at Amazon, what all things we need to prepare and what would be the expectation from interviews. Even we will try to know about some resources and what all things which helped him to crack the Amazon SDE2 role. And apart from that, we will be also discussing about the salary negotiation and let's say you have multiple offers from good companies and how to choose companies wisely, his experience, his learning to become a senior developer from the junior developer. So these kind of things we will be discussing today. So watch this podcast till the end. This will be really helpful for you if you are preparing for such kind of roles in big tech companies. Also share your thoughts in the comment section, press the like button, and if you are new to my channel, then don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the notification icon as well. And guys, we all know to crack good product based companies, one thing matters a lot, that is data structures and algorithms. So if you are someone who is not feeling that much comfortable with DSA and want to get good expertise on it, here is a platform named as Coding Ninjas which can help you in that journey. And they are really famous for their content quality and their continuous teaching assistant support. So let me show you the kind of courses they have prepared. So let's say if you want to brush up your skills in the DSA with different languages, then it is available for C++, Java, and they have covered courses for your core subjects as well, like operating system, interview preparation related courses, most important competitive programming related courses. And this is the newly launched course, system design, very important if you are preparing for the senior developer roles, and courses related to important job profiles and important tech stacks like Android developer, web development, and their important frameworks like Node.js, React.js. They have also prepared courses for those folks who are really interested in the data domain like me, machine learning and deep learning course, data science and machine learning complete course, and even some premium courses for these kind of trending job profiles. So you can see the variety of courses they are covering. It will definitely help you to upskill and to land into your dream jobs. So to enroll yourself in these awesome courses, you can use the link which is in the description and you will get extra 20% discount on top of the early bird discount. So don't miss this opportunity, explore the courses and join whatever you want. So now quickly jump on to our podcast part. Okay, so thank you so much Soumyajit for joining us on this podcast. And I was trying to host you since very long time but didn't get a right time for that. I think like many of you might be knowing about him on the LinkedIn, and you might be following his channel. And if you're new to my channel, then he runs a very good channel about the tech conversation, about the company review, cities and all. I'll put his channel link on my description. Go check that out, subscribe to his channel. So first of all, Soumyajit, why don't you introduce yourself to my audience? Like tell us about your background.
Thank you, Shashank, for hosting me here. It's really an honor for me. I have been watching your videos as well, and you are doing an exceptional work here. Coming to my introduction, I am currently working as SDE2 at Amazon, and previous to Amazon I used to work at DShaw for around 3.5 years. I have a total experience of 4 years as of now, and that will be probably the shortest and sweetest introduction for me right now.
Soumyajit, you started your career with DShaw and spent like almost 3 years there. So like share your experience and learning of starting as a junior developer like to become a senior developer. I know you definitely would have learned so many things when you start as a fresher. It's a different environment for you. Then in those 3 years, what did you actually learn as a fresher and then turned out to be a like senior developer?
Sure. And this is like probably one of the most important things that everyone should know, that whenever, let's say we are starting out from college, right? In college, we do not work in applications that are working at this scale or even this large applications as well. All we do is, work on single applications or small projects that we do with our computer and just be happy with it. However, working in an industry, in a company, and working in like real life projects and solving real life applications and problems, they are like a different challenge altogether.
Correct.
And definitely college, howsoever, whatever college you are studying in or you have graduated from, they really cannot actually prepare you for the real world that is there and the real life challenges that you will be solving.
True.
So similar case was mine as well. As soon as I started out in the 𝗗𝗂𝗰𝗂𝗀, it was a different world altogether, and definitely there were a lot of challenges. Like some challenges might seem that they are very mundane, like writing clean code, writing proper code, how to write modular programs and extensible programs. They might sound like very mundane and very easy challenges, but in practicality, most of the freshers, be it interns or anyone who is joining right out of college, right, they do not have the exposure to do that. So from that point of view as well, in the 𝗗𝗂𝗰𝗂𝗀, I learned quite a lot, starting from my very first year there, as well as till the 3 years that I have been working there. I learned quite a lot about how to write clean code, how to write modular and extensible code. Not only this, I was fortunate enough to work on different projects from ground up, like completely from scratch as well.
That's nice.
In the 𝗗𝗂𝗰𝗂𝗀, I would not say that everybody was that like per se lucky in that matter, but I don't know how, maybe luck conspired, but I was kind of given those kind of projects, those kind of things to do POCs on, learning new technologies and trying to implement and integrate them into the existing solutions that there were. So from that sense as well, I learned quite a lot about different technologies. I learned how to design and low-level design, at least. From the first 3 years.
Okay.
So I would say your first job is like it holds a very special place in your heart.
Yeah.
It's a first exposure to the corporate world, and definitely if it teaches you quite a lot of things, which probably the subsequent jobs you will get to learn things, but not at the scale, at the level at which you will learn in the first job.
Thing which I wanted to cover in this podcast, like let people know about the preparation strategies for SD2 role at Amazon and how the general interview process looks like. Definitely you are working there as a software engineer 2 profile. How's the general interview process of Amazon for SD2 role? What kind of rounds will be there, and what would be expected?
That's true. The interview process at Amazon, or maybe most of the product-based tech companies at least the SD2 level, is more or less similar. Obviously, the number of rounds may differ, and the areas in which they will focus on what that might differ based upon companies. But from Amazon's point of view, if you ask, right, in general, there are basically 5 face-to-face rounds, and before 5 face-to-face rounds, there is 1 online assessment round. It's basically a HackerRank test or any other platform test where they ask 2 questions, and after that, you need to explain those 2 questions, the approaches used, and the time complexity and space complexity, and then there's a work style survey of 35 questions that you need to answer to gauge whether or not you are culturally fit to work at Amazon. So that's the first online assessment round that happens. So after you give the online assessment and you are kind of selected for the next rounds, next is basically the virtual onsite. Obviously, in this day and age, there is no physical onsite that is done, so it's virtual onsite only. And for an SD2 role, there are around 5 rounds that, as I said, that will be taking place. The structure of the round might differ depending upon which team you are hiring and how the hiring manager of that particular role has defined the structure of the round. But in general, the rounds will cover, basically there will be 2 problem solving DSA rounds that will take place. Then there will be 1 high level design round, 1 low level design round, and 1 completely behavioral round. Now there can be use cases, or there can be certain cases where the high level round and the low level round might be merged into 1 round, and there can be, you know, multiple behavioral rounds or an extra DSA round based upon the interview structure that the hiring manager has decided. But in general, these will be the topics in which you will be tested. Now, from a level perspective, if you want to ask like what is the level of the questions that are asked there, so if we take the example of problem solving rounds or DSA rounds, you will get mostly medium or medium hard level questions in this particular round. If you ask my personal experience, so in both of the problem solving rounds, in the first one I was asked 3 questions. 1 was easy, 1 was medium, and 1 was hard. In the second problem solving round, I was asked 2 questions. in which both of them were medium based questions.
Okay.
And correspondingly, from the low-level design round or the high-level design round, the expectations are a bit different. From a low-level design perspective, as an SDE2, you are kind of expected that you will be quite good at low-level design.
Right.
However, from an high-level design perspective, as an SDE2, the expectation is that you should be good, but need not be like excellent or very good in high-level design, because even they know the fact, right? You are maybe 2, 3, 4 years of experience right now, 5 years of experience
Correct.
right now, and guys might not have had that exposure to build such large-scale systems every time, and hence the expectation is that you should be good at it, but need not be the best at it.
Okay.
However, from a low-level design perspective, they are more rigorous in that sense that you are kind of expected to be very good at the low-level design round. And in the behavioral round, it's basically all the questions from the leadership principles that we have at Amazon. And probably, in all of the previous rounds as well, you might be asked a couple of questions from leadership principles as well, depending upon who is taking the round.
Yep, like indirect questions like around the leadership principles.
Yeah. All the questions will be kind of indirect and will be experience-based per se, situation-based questions. And yes, definitely prepare them beforehand. It's like very difficult to think of a situation at that point in time in an interview, and you don't want to be blank at that point in time.
Now you have talked about the process, but based on your experience, definitely we would also like to know about the preparation for SD2 roles. On a higher level, you talked about, HLD, LLD, problem solvings and the things. So like, what all things we need to prepare? Can you just connect those dots so that people can focus on those points?
So let's start from the beginning itself, right? You will be asked DSA questions for probably the entire lifetime that you are here, until and unless the interviewing pattern changes somehow in the future. So that is something that you need to do. Again, for doing DSA, there are like multiple mediums in which you can do it. I personally prepared using LeetCode as my primary source of preparation. I personally find it good and intuitive to practice there. That's why I used it. You can use anything, any other platform as well. To prepare for DSA. From a level perspective, you should always try and solve medium-based questions as much as possible. Solving hard questions is also kind of necessary because, again, there is no set question pattern, right? And an interviewer can ask anything. But solving medium-level questions will prepare you enough to, and will enhance your problem solving skills and DSA skills enough so that you can kind of tackle these questions and these challenges in the interviews. So focus on solving at least medium level questions as much as possible. I did from LeetCode. You can do from anywhere else. Anyone can do from anywhere else. And from low level design or high level design perspective, so basically the expectation from a low level design is that you will be able to come up with a proper class design. You will be able to come up with proper API contracts. For example, you will be given a very ambiguous statement, first and foremost, in both the rounds, LLD as well as HLD round. So in that ambiguous statement, you yourself have to, ask or counter-ask questions to form what all are the requirements that the interviewer is looking to test you. Because just listening to the question and just directly jumping into, solving the solution might be counterproductive because the interviewer might not be, looking at testing you in those aspects which you are solving right now. So always formalize the requirements before jumping into, thinking about a solution. Apart from that, now depending upon the interviewer, again, the interviewer might ask you to, kind of maybe solve one requirement algorithmically as well. So the interviewer might ask you that these are the 4 requirements. Out of this, can you please solve the 3rd requirement, like write the code for the 3rd requirement, stuff like that. That might happen, might not happen. That completely depends upon the interviewer and the type of the question that the interviewer has asked. So this is from a low-level design perspective. You can see the low-level design in my channel to prepare that.
Yeah, definitely you should check his channel.
And from a high-level design perspective, the expectation is that basically, again, the question problem will be very ambiguous. So you should be able to, formalize the requirements that are present. Then do the estimates that how much scale your problem will be working at. So you need to learn those things as well as to how to do proper estimates for, let's say, for example, if the question is that build, let's say, a social media app like Facebook or Instagram or whatever.
Okay.
So you need to properly justify what is the scale at which your application will be performing, how many millions of users you will be interacting with your application, and depending upon that, what is the data size or how many GB or TB or petabytes of data you will be storing, and on the basis of those estimates that you define at the start of the interview, will your design change.
Okay.
Now, coming to the design part of it, obviously the expectation here is as well that you at least come up with a scalable design which is completely fault tolerant as much as possible,
okay.
and can handle a high amount of scale, large number of users using that application, as well as the expectation is that whatever services you choose, whatever technologies you choose, whatever tech stack you choose in that particular design, and whatever database you choose, you should be able to explain why you chose that particular database type, why you chose that particular technology, why you chose that particular service for solving one of the requirements or some of the requirements. And definitely, hence, you should always, try to learn about these aspects. There are like a lot of good resources in YouTube. Not only this, there are like a lot of good blogs that are present.
Okay.
One of the blogs that I studied is 𝗖𝗶𝗶𝐵 blog, which is like which is a complete website and a blog where they constantly post content around system design. So you can go ahead and read it, and it's completely free. There is like no paid thing there. And another thing that you can do is read up about this thing. The engineering blogs of different companies.
Yeah.
So if you go right and search for Netflix engineering blog or Uber engineering blog, Facebook, Instagram, most of the companies have their engineering blogs where they constantly, upload, or where they constantly write articles depending upon the engineering challenges that they faced and how they scaled and what all things they use. And that can be a great source to actually understand what actually is being used in the companies in real world and how they are solving problems at scale. And another thing that you can probably do is maybe, watch these videos. There are like several videos in YouTube that many people have uploaded, and you guys can go ahead and watch it. They are like very awesome. And not only this, you can also watch the AWS videos. Basically, AWS also uploads videos around solving engineering problems at scale. And there also they discuss the high level design of many different applications. They are also like super awesome to study and understand how to use these things.
Let's come on to the main challenges, like how to apply and get noticed by the recruiters of big tech firms, like while applying for senior software engineer role. Like share some best tips based on your experience.
So that is definitely a challenge, no matter from where you have done your engineering or what company you are working at. That will be a challenge, and plus in the post-pandemic world, as at least right now, the hiring has started catching up in this year, but in the last year it was like very low, so the challenge was much more magnified. But yes, in general, the biggest tip that I can say, I can give, is that try to, whatever resume you are making, right, do not make a single resume and send it across for different companies. That's like a complete no.
Okay.
Don't do that. Always, I would say, tailor your resume or change your resume based upon the company you are applying, the role you are applying, and highlight those aspects accordingly.
Okay.
For example, what I did, at least in my resume, right, for applying to Amazon, everybody knows that there are these leadership principles that are present in Amazon, right? Similarly, for different companies as well, you will see there are some values present, or it's the same thing with a different name that is present there, and everybody has a certain set of cultural aspect to their company defined by these kind of values and principles, right? So I personally integrated these leadership principles inside my resume itself and highlighted how I showed these leadership principles through the work that I had done in the last company. Okay. And I believe doing that, what happens is basically it's all about subconscious bias. Basically, if you are, let's say, a hiring manager or you are an HR, let's say, who is reading through a resume, from your subconscious mind itself, you will be more inclined to select a resume where you can directly connect to.
Yeah.
That's why it's very important to tailor your resume on the basis of a particular company as well as on the basis of a particular role. Now, why role is important is because, for example, let's say you wish to change your role, or you wish to, let's say you are a backend developer or you are a software engineer and you wish to become a front-end engineer, or vice versa. You are a front-end engineer and you wish to apply for a, let's say, software development engineer too. Now, having the same resume where you are only highlighting the projects which you have done on the basis of, let's say, a front-end engineer, then that might not get selected for a software development engineer role. So you need to highlight those projects where you have maybe solved some backend challenges, or if you are a backend engineer, then you need to highlight those projects where you have solved some complex front-end challenges and build up certain things in your resume and highlight them. Maybe use bold font for those things, so that whenever someone reads through your resume, they know that you are a software engineer but you have done front-end problems, or you are a front-end engineer but have done backend challenges as well, and you are capable enough to do it here as well.
Okay.
So you need to tailor your resume based upon the roles in which you are applying, based upon the company in which you are applying, and always give more focus on the projects that you have done recently than the projects that you have done in the past. Because generally what happens is the projects that you have done recently is where more weightage is given. Hence, try to explain the corresponding challenges in those projects and how you overcame them in your resume in the more for the recent projects. And I think so building of resume is probably one of the most important things that will help you ultimately get noticed by a hiring manager or a recruiter, and correspondingly picking up your resume. And the second thing is probably use LinkedIn wisely. In LinkedIn, you have so many people who are readily available to give you referrals, who are readily available to take you and start your interview process. But you need to use it wisely, and do not just think it as just another social media platform, because it is not. It is technically meant for increasing your network. So use that and use it to your advantage, I would say.
Difficult question to ask. When we have multiple offers from good companies, then which one to choose wisely?
Yes, and thanks for asking that question, because it is, I believe, one of the most important questions that anyone, whosoever, be it a fresher, be it a senior engineer or anyone, needs to answer and needs to find an answer to. Because oftentimes we see, right, we directly compare compensation with the amount of learning that we will get in one particular firm, which might not be the case always. So first and foremost, obviously compensation should be one of the factors, but it should not be the only deciding factor present. Because if, for example, a particular company is giving you a huge amount of money, but you are not learning at all, then it is kind of, that company is binding you with golden handcuffs, which means you will not be able to get out of that company, because no other company will be paying that much. And you are not learning in that company, so you will anyways, if you go outside, you will not be able to crack those interviews for that company, or work in other companies as well.
True.
That's why we need to always think thoroughly before joining a particular company. So first and foremost, at least I would believe, whenever we are maybe freshers or we are relatively new in our career, right, then always optimize for learning, whatever may be the case, as much as possible. Obviously, if you see that there are like a huge amount of compensation difference, then maybe you can also think of taking up an offer with a higher compensation. But in general, if the delta is not that high, right, and 3-4 lakhs here and there will not cost you as much as starting your career or switching to a company where you are not learning will cost you in the future. Always look at the team in which you are getting hired and not at the company, because a company will always have good teams and will always have bad teams. And the same is the case for other companies as well. So always look out at the teams, talk with the manager, talk with existing employees if you find any in that particular team. Sometimes companies do schedule these manager calls and do schedule these employee calls with prospective candidates, right? So you ask actual questions as to what is the kind of work that they do, how much learning they get, what all innovative things they have done in the recent past, and what is the project pipeline in the future, that what all things they will do in the future. So always take these information and then probably decide as to which company will offer you the kind of role you want to do. Obviously, that is super important, because if a company is not offering you the kind of role you want to do, you will not be performing well. As simple as that. You will not be performing up to your potential. So always see which company is actually giving you the kind of role you want to do, which company is providing you the type of learning and the amount of learning that you need in order to grow in a career. And then obviously look at the compensation aspect as well. But do not just look at the compensation aspect and say ki one company is giving you, let's say, 4-5 lakhs more, so go there, because 5 lakhs or 4 lakhs here in a grand scheme of things, like your career will be maybe, let's say, 20 years, 30 years of your career. 5 lakhs in one particular year will not matter as much as learning in one particular year will matter, because if you optimize for learning now, then you will quickly recover this 5 lakh delta in the future, in the next switch itself, if you wish to. You can also, it completely depends on from one individual to another and what are their personal preferences. So you can also take a look at the work-life balance, the work culture, in general, the employee benefits of the company. But primarily, you should focus on the learning aspect, and then these other aspects can, tilt the decision into the favor of one or the other.
Salary negotiation. I mean, it is the most trickiest part of the interview process. So again, based on your experience, what are the best tips to increase your chances to get like 2-3 lakhs extra from the company?
Correct. And I think so. Probably this is something that we do not do as a country. I think so.
Yeah.
Like I have seen so many people, be it freshers, be it junior engineers, senior engineers, always asking me that is it good to negotiate? Like, what if my manager feels that I am greedy? I'm like, no, he won't feel that you are greedy, because the only thing is that why you should negotiate is that while you are working at a company, right, you should not be worrying about your compensation. If you are worrying about your compensation, then you will not be working at that company properly. Yeah. You will not focus properly in that company, because you will always be thinking that, hey, I'm not getting up to what I should be getting and I should make a switch. Correct. Which is very bad for a particular company. So a company, obviously, budgets will differ from one company to another. That's a separate issue. But in the budget that they have, they would always want to give you whatever you want as much as possible, so that you do not always think about money or think about your compensation, and focus yourself into working for that particular company, solving the challenges for that particular company. That's why it is always good to negotiate. And there's no problem in asking, right? Because what the worst thing that can happen is that they will say, no, we this is the maximum budget that we have. But it is always good to ask. So many of the people, they do not ask even, or they do not say even. Now, the first and foremost tip to negotiating any offer, for that matter, is that you should know your worth. If you do not know your worth, that will become difficult. Now, your worth is not only tied with you, obviously it will be tied with you, but it is also tied with the company in which you are interviewing. So your worth, per se, from a compensation perspective, will obviously differ from one company to another company. Right. Why I am saying this is because the budget of one company might be different than that of the other company, and there we cannot do anything for that matter. But yes, you should always know what is the range of compensation for a particular company, how much they can pay for a particular role, what they actually pay to different people joining in that particular role. You should always be aware of that. So do proper market research. Now in India, that I have seen is that generally, recruiters do ask these questions about what is your expected salary. Personally, I would say that do not say that question, because the first person who answers this question is always set to lose, because negotiations will always happen from there down below. Correct. But yes, sometimes you cannot just avoid that particular question. So I would say, based upon the research that you have done, and you have, let's say, evaluated that your worth is, let's say, X lakhs per year, whatever it may be. So always quote X plus 5 or X plus 10 or 15% to the recruiter as your expected salary. Why? Because you should always think that the recruiter will negotiate you down. So why to start with what you expect? Because if you do start there, then it will always come down, right? Yeah. And you will not get what you expected. So always start with, let's say, 5-10 lakhs or 10-15% more than what your expectation is, so that when the recruiter pulls you down, that's fine. You still are probably, gonna be in a range where you expected that compensation.
Yeah.
And in the off chance that the recruiter does not negotiate, then you get 10-15% extra. So there is no problem in that. So always do that. Second is, I would say, it's very important, is that always know which company has a budget to do what. And line up your interviews accordingly.
Right.
So if you line up your interviews such that higher budget companies, which has the capability to pay you high beforehand, if you're, for example, if your salary is low, for example, and if you line up the company which has the capability to pay high beforehand, and they kind of give you some percent hike on your current salary, then you are not actually utilizing the high band, right?
Yeah.
Because they will only be giving you a hike over your current salary. Yeah. However, if you put the interviews of this big company with big budget at the end, then gradually by taking multiple offers, you can actually negotiate and leverage those multiple offers to get a higher salary from that particular big brand. So I would say be intelligent enough to schedule your interviews such that you can optimize for a higher compensation from the companies that can pay, because we should always know every company cannot pay the same amount of money, and that's not good to even believe that every company will have the same budget. So we should always understand the budgets, what is the range, what is my worth, and correspondingly schedule the interviews to get more compensation.
Thank you so much, Soumyajit, for sharing your experience with my audience, and it was really nice to have a conversation with you, and whatever things you shared about the SDE2 preparation and like how someone should target the big companies, salary negotiation, and choose companies wisely. So these kind of questions will definitely help a lot of people. So at the end of this podcast, from my side and from my audience side, thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Shashank, for actually inviting me here. I always wanted to come here.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, that's an amazing. At least I had a blast discussing all these things, and it was an amazing experience for me as well. And probably in the end, I would say to each and everyone that is probably listening, right, always focus on your learning and growing. Do not always focus on the results right now. It might so happen that the results are not in your favor right now at this point in time, but they will be if you consistently do the hard work, consistently fight for what you want, and work hard as much as possible, and you will definitely succeed.
Yeah. Thanks for these bonus advices. Thank you so much. So that was all about in this video, guys. I hope you would have enjoyed the entire conversation with Soumyajit. If you did, then make sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe the channel if you're new to my channel. And I will see you guys in next weekend with another amazing podcast. Till then, just stay safe, stay home, take care of yourself and your family too.